Joyful Meeting Between Father and Son by S.C. Turnbo. In the memorable war between the states, many families were divided against each other. Father against son, brother against brother. Now one shed his blood for the South and the other for the North. It was a hard struggle for family ties to be broken in this way and war against each other. But it is true a number of instances of this kind occurred. Now one day in the month of August, 1906, Mr. Sam Griffin, formerly of Texas County, Missouri, but then lived near Oneida, Indian Territory, informed me that he was acquainted with a case of a father and son fighting against each other in Civil War times. He said that Bill Hughes lived on Elk Creek in Texas County and who, when the people of the North and the South fell out with each other, went to war, Mr. Hughes used his influence for the Stars and Stripes, and when President Lincoln made his first call for volunteers, he enlisted in the Federal Army. Now, Mr. Hughes' son, whose name was also William, loved the South the best, and he went to the Confederate Army. Each man loved the cause he contended for, and both stood firm in their convictions on Sunday, the 7th of December, 1862. Now Hyman and Blunt, with their respective armies, met at Prairie Grove, and history tells us what was done there. Now William Hughes belonged to General Hyman's army, and his father was in General Blunt's command. During the desperate struggle between the two forces that day, William, captured by the Federals and with other prisoners, was sent to the rear. On the following day after the battle was fought, Mr. Hughes, who come out of the fight all right, asked permission to be allowed to visit the prisoners for the purpose of looking after his son, for he was convinced that he had taken the dart in the battle and he had not been found among the dead and wounded. He might be among the prisoners, for he knew if William was in the engagement he was in the thickest of the fight and was liable to be captured. Now his request was granted, and off he went with the anxious heart to where the Confederate prisoners were under guard, and sure enough, his son was among the captured. The father was nearly overcome with joy to meet his son, and though it was embarrassing to meet each other under the circumstances, each of them was well, and neither one of them had been touched by a bullet. After the joyful greeting had somewhat subsided, Mr. Hughes turned to some of his comrades who were standing nearby, and with tear-stained cheeks says, "Boys, this is my oldest son. He loves the stars and bars, and I love the Star-Spangled Banner. Treat my boy well." Those who wore the blue were glad to see father and son meet together and bestow their affections on each other. And those veteran men who knew how to treat a prisoner of war with respect promised Mr. Hughes that his son should not be mistreated while he was in their hands.